Urahara is easily one of the most mysterious but yet important characters within the entirety of Bleach. He had once served as the captain of the 12th Division, as well as famously being known as the founder of the Shinigami Research and Development Institute. One of his most notable achievements includes the creation of the Hogyoku, a device that is capable of dissolving the boundaries between Shinigami and Hollow, as well as allowing one race to obtain the powers of the other. As the story continues, we learn that the true power of the Hogyoku lies in its ability to actualize the wielder's innermost desires. It was thanks to the Hogyoku which had led to Aizen obtaining his near godlike powers, which had then set a chain of dramatic events that underpinned the entirety of the Arrancar arc. In this video, I want to explore the inventor of the Hogyoku. Although we don't know much about his backstory, I'm still going to try my best to deep dive into Urahara's past and to discover what experiences had led him to forge a deep relationship with characters like Yoruichi Shihoin. Why did he end up creating the Hogyoku? And I'm going to try to answer one of the most important unanswered questions around Urahara's character, which is how did he come to have knowledge about the Soul King? My theories for Urahara's backstory will be building upon what we learn within the Turn Back the Pendulum arc, as well as the interactions between Urahara and Aizen in chapter 421 of the manga. So without further delay, join me as I uncover the hidden mysteries about the former captain of the 12th Division. Hopefully by the end of this video, you're going to understand a lot of the mysteries behind one of the most important characters in Bleach. During the Turn Back the Pendulum arc, it is revealed that Urahara was raised within the Shihoin mansion located in the Serete. He was brought up alongside noble figures like Yoruichi Shihoin and Taisai Tsukabishi. The Shihoin clan is one of the highest ranking noble families within the Soul Society. They are the only family to use royal titles as well as have their own personal god known as the Onomitsukido. Because of Urahara being raised within the Shihoin household, many fans have speculated that Urahara must also come from a noble family himself, but unfortunately this has never really been confirmed within the manga or the light novels of Bleach. At some point, Yoruichi had decided to pursue a role within the Onomitsukido, while Urahara had decided to follow a path within the Gote 13, as he had eventually secured himself the position of the 3rd seat within the 2nd Division. Analyzing more of the Turn Back the Pendulum arc, we learn that due to Urahara's position as one of the top 5 seated officers, he was eventually granted the title of the head of the Onomitsukido's detention unit. Because of this newly acquired title, he was able to once again work in close proximity to his childhood friend Yoruichi. When the captain of the 12th Division, Kiryu Hikifune, was eventually promoted into the Royal Guard, Yoruichi was the one who had in fact recommended Urahara to be her successor. Yoruichi was able to make such a recommendation because she was the captain of the 2nd Division and the leader of the Onomitsukido. Yoruichi had informed Urahara of his upcoming position during one of their sparring sessions. Their close bond is effectively captured by Kubo as he illustrates them training in a hidden spot within the Serete. An intriguing detail emerges from their underground training setting. The presence of healing springs hints at a prior association between Urahara and Tenjiro Kurinji from the Royal Guard. These hot springs become significant within the story as we learn about their healing properties during the 1000-Year Blood War arc. While Urahara readies himself for his new role, he begins to prepare for the captain's aptitude test. As he spends the day wandering around the Soul Society looking for information about Shinigami defectors, Soifon monitors and disapproving the comments on his interactions, particularly those with Yoruichi, and it's evident that she doesn't have a very high opinion of him. This is an interesting point to note because Soifon's attitude towards Urahara could possibly be a reflection of his status as a non-noble. We know that Urahara was raised within the Shihoin mansion, but Kubo does not go into detail about his family lineage. Who were his parents? Were they nobles or did they come from the Rukongai district? Why did Urahara grow up with Yoruichi and not with some distant relatives? After successfully passing his captain's exam, Urahara is immediately assigned Hikifune's previous lieutenant Hiyori Sarugaki. Their interactions bring Urahara's jovial and witty nature to the forefront, even as Hiyori frequently lashes out at him with a mixture of scorn and animosity. During a visit to the detention unit which was housing the prisoner Mairi Kurotsuchi, we see Urahara effortlessly deflect an attack from a prisoner who was targeting Hiyori. As as he showcases his amazing combat skills. His purpose of visiting the detention unit Maggot's Nest was to offer Mayuri the role of vice captain within his newly established Shinigami Research and Development Institute. Urahara assures Mayuri that should he meet an untimely end, then the entire institute would pass on to him. This tempting offer sways Mayuri as it sets the stage for his future contributions to the Soul Society's technological advancements, because as you know, he eventually does become the leader of the Research and Development Institute. The individual that Urahara selects as his underling would have an impact upon multiple characters, such as the Quincy, Arrancar, and even the Fullbringers, as we learn so many details about Mayuri during the narrative of Bleach. 9 years following Urahara's assignment as captain of the 12th Division, a series of strange disappearances begin occurring within the Rukongai district. Urahara is briefed on the matter by Shinji and his lieutenant Sosuke Aizen. In response, Urahara develops a new Gigai in order to counteract the mysterious soul disappearances. However, things begin to go from bad to worse as Hiyori, who is sent as part of the investigation unit, disappears along with the 9th Squad. After being denied to go to the site of the disappearances, Urahara defies Head Captain Yamamoto's orders and he conceals himself using a Ryatsu concealing cloak. He is eventually spotted by Tessai, who joins him to search for the missing members of the 9th Division and Hiyori. Their investigation eventually reveals that Aizen was the mastermind behind the disappearances. He had been conducting experiments with his Hogyoku that had gone too far. Urahara and Tessai's timely arrival prevents Aizen from executing Shinji, as Urahara quickly notes that the victims of Aizen's experimentation have undergone a process called holification. After Aizen and his followers manage to escape, Urahara takes up the responsibility to help the holified Shinigami. Tessai uses a forbidden Kido to transport all of them to Urahara's lab, and it is here when we see Urahara use his own version of the Hogyoku in order to reverse the process of holification, but it does not have the desired effect and it leaves Shinji and the other Shinigami still with hollow powers. Not too long after this, the Central 46 summon Urahara and Tessai as they deliver a verdict that Urahara is to be stripped of his Shinigami abilities and he is to be exiled to the human world. Yoruichi swiftly, however, breaks into the Central 46 quarters and rescues both of them by taking them to a secret underground area. Yoruichi is furious at Urahara for not keeping her informed as to what was going on. She appears to have also brought along the 8 holified Shinigami as well as the prototype Gigai that Urahara had created. Urahara is then determined to escape to the human world along with the holified Shinigami as well as Tessai and Yoruichi who join him. He is able to do this thanks to his Ryatsu concealing Gigai. His attempts at undoing the holification of Shinji and the others is unsuccessful. The victims of Aizen's experiments end up absorbing their hollow powers and they become the Vizards that we see within the current story. The Turn Back the Pendulum arc wraps up as we learn that Urahara had pretty much settled into the human world after leaving the Soul Society. Now during the fake Karakura Town arc, while Aizen explains the powers of the Hogyoku, Urahara ambushes him from behind. He notes that Aizen has fully fused with the Hogyoku, to which Aizen responds that he has become its master. He then begins to taunt Urahara and points out the fact that this is something that Urahara was unable to do in the past. When Aizen attempts to attack once again, Urahara uses a portable Gigai as a decoy in order to deflect his attack. He proceeds to bind Aizen with multiple Kido spells, and then when he makes the final attack using Senju Koten Taiho, the battle appears to have been won, but when the smoke clears, Aizen appears to be unscathed. This moment demonstrates that Urahara has a unique mastery over various Kido spells, and it solidifies him as a Kido master and one of the strongest characters within the series, because he just demonstrated that he's able to hold his own in a battle against an enhanced Aizen. In addition to this, Aizen also praises Urahara mid-battle, stating that he is the only individual within the Soul Society whose intellect surpasses his own. Isshin and Yoruichi proceed to attack Aizen, but eventually they fail to overcome him, as we then learn that Urahara has created a special type of armor for Yoruichi, which further indicates his intellectual prowess by being able to design various devices which enhance the capabilities of the wearer. Despite struggling, Urahara continues to fight against Aizen, as he proceeds to use a very high level 90 Kido spell as a feint while he places a seal onto Aizen. Now it is only after Ichigo utilizes the final Getsuga Tensho against Aizen that Urahara reveals his final move, explaining how he had infused a specialized seal within Aizen, as he had anticipated the challenges of confronting an Aizen that would be merged with the Hogyoku. As the seal begins to take hold and the power that Aizen had obtained from the Hogyoku begins to fade, trade, Urahara states that Aizen's loss of power is also the will of the Hogyoku. Interestingly, Aizen responds with a cryptic question about Urahara's loyalty to a mysterious thing. Urahara asks Aizen if he is referring to the Soul King, as he notes that Aizen has also seen it. This absolutely insane revelation has left fans speculating with theories for years. Just how on earth did Urahara come to know about the nature of the Soul King, the linchpin of the Bleach universe? The Soul King is one of the most important figures within the Bleach universe. In the beginning of creation, first came regular souls, then hollows, and then came the Soul King, who had stood between the two creations and was regarded as the progenitor of all other races that had followed. During the fake Karakura Town arc, Urahara had stated that without the Soul King, the Soul Society would fall apart. This is attributed to the Soul King's main purpose, which is to oversee the transition of souls into and out of the Soul Society. Interestingly, despite the fact that the Soul King is such an important figure to the history of the Soul Society, only a select few individuals are aware of him. This is because he is safeguarded within the royal palace and he is sealed and isolated from others. What's even more shocking is that despite being so omnipotent, the Soul King is revealed to be a being who has had his limbs completely severed from his body. Now we know that Urahara and Aizen are the only two characters to have created two separate versions of the Hogyoku, and Urahara's creation had ended up outranking Aizen's. How was it that both of these individuals who claim to have seen the Soul King ended up inventing such a similar device? Well, one plausible speculation is that Urahara, growing up in the Shihoin mansion, had access to the family archives where the ancestors of the Soul Society had buried the truth about who the Soul King really is. Here, he may have secretly studied the truth about how the Soul Society was formed. Upon further investigation, Urahara may have also stumbled upon a piece of the Soul King hidden in a forbidden room of the Shihoin family palace. There is every chance that Yoruichi would also be aware of the research that Urahara was doing and would have agreed to keep a secret for him, probably because she is also aware of the corrupt foundations on which the Soul Society was built upon. So far, this seems to be an accurate interpretation of how the Hogyoku ended up being created, because according to the Can't Fear Unworld light novels, the Hogyoku contains a fragment of the Soul King, and this is the source of its wish-granting power. So it may very well be plausible that a piece of the Soul King was within the Shihoin mansion, and Urahara had used a fragment of this piece in order to create his Hogyoku. So when it comes to Aizen, he probably had used Kyoka Suigetsu in order to sneak into the general archives of one of the great noble houses. Once he had learnt enough information about the Soul King, he had ended up creating his own imperfect Hogyoku, and we learned that the Soul King fragment that he had used had originated from Rangiku. He then decided to steal Urahara's Hogyoku in order to merge the two to create a perfected Hogyoku. It has been speculated that while Aizen wasn't really interested in Tokinada, he was interested in the Suniyashiro family, because they had in fact kept records of everything about the Soul Society since the beginning of time, including the original sins of the 5 great noble families. It was also the Suniyashiro family that had kept the information about Fullbringers hidden from the Gotei 13, the fact that they actually possess a piece of the Soul King within their body. Whatever the case may be, we know that Urahara and Aizen were motivated to create the Hogyoku as they were both studying the path of holification, desiring to enhance Shinigami by incorporating hollow properties within their souls, very similar to how fragments of the Soul King enhance the souls of which they possess. You have to remember that I am speculating here, and it's based upon all of the information that we have from the Can't Fear Unworld light novels and the Bleach manga. While we know that Aizen never really was able to reach the royal palace and that he couldn't have truly seen the Soul King for himself in person, during the 1000 Year Blood War arc of the manga, he thinks back to how Ichigo has made it up to the royal palace before he has. So we can speculate that Aizen didn't actually see the Soul King in person, but instead may have come across an illustration of the Soul King who is currently sealed. After Aizen had realized that the god of the Bleach universe is a linchpin holding the balance of the worlds together, this inspired him to work against the Soul Society and everything that it stands for. The purpose of the Soul Society is to regulate the balance between the worlds, and we quickly realized that after Urahara had come to learn about the reality of the world, he had desired to maintain the status quo. You can see just how connected Urahara and Aizen's characters are. They are literally the polar opposites of each other, and in order to understand some of the key points about Urahara's backstory, it is impossible not to compare it against Aizen's backstory. Why is it that Kubo contrasts Urahara with Aizen? Aizen's ultimate desire was to stand on top of the world as its ruler. Despite his beliefs in the hierarchy, he harbors a deep disdain for deceit, which the Soul Society has partaken in. Urahara contrastingly diverges from the Soul Society's traditional values, as he doesn't perceive there to be a massive difference between Shinigami and Hollows, but rather thinks of them as two sides of the same coin. The Central 46 ended up tolerating Aizen, but instead they had exiled Urahara. Despite his revolutionary beliefs, Urahara still believes in maintaining the status quo, as he believes in balance and not change. Now Ichigo comes into this as he bridges the ideological gap between Urahara and Aizen, as he plays an instrumental role in aiding Urahara in his conflict against Aizen. Through the course of the Bleach series, it becomes evident that Ichigo could very likely succeed the Soul King, as he mirrors him in several ways. While Aizen had utilized external means to achieve transcendence via the Hogyoku, Ichigo ended up becoming a transcended being through introspection as he had acquired the final Getsuga Tensho. The craziest thing about all of this is that Ichigo's very existence is as a consequence of Aizen's actions. A being similar to the Soul King ended up being created as a consequence of Aizen's actions and his desire to change the world. It is symbolic of how the Soul King also brings balance to reality. Now, with all of the information that we've discussed so far and with some tangents that we've gone on, I want to summarize some key points about Urahara's character so that we have a better understanding of his past. Firstly, Urahara's relationship with Yoruichi is that of equality. Despite the fact that she is from nobility, it doesn't affect the way that they interact with each other. While Yoruichi has a very high societal ranking, we never feel this through the way that these two characters speak with each other. The second point is the fact that Urahara has some sort of a bond with Tenjiro Korinji, as he was aware of his healing springs. Maybe he eavesdropped on Tenjiro speaking with the other members of the Zero Division, or he had snuck into the royal palace at some earlier point in time in order to learn about the unique properties of his hot springs. The third point that I want to talk about is Tessai's bond with Urahara, which makes me believe that he may be a guardian who was sent with Urahara to the Shihoin household. It might be because Tessai is just really loyal to Urahara, but it does seem as though Tessai is a guardian and a protector for Urahara that was possibly sent from the 5th noble family that we don't know anything about. And this noble family is possibly where Urahara originates from. There are so many instances within Bleach where Urahara conveniently appears out of nowhere with a solution to a given problem. This is even acknowledged by Aizen, and it's further proven after we learn that Aizen needed to steal Urahara's Hogyoku in order to activate the full potential of his own Hogyoku. By merging the two of them, he was then only able to create a perfected version of it. Urahara and Aizen have both encountered the Soul King in some way. They've learned about the secrets of the Soul Society and the true nature of reality. The main takeaway is that everything that has occurred within Urahara's life, including his past and backstory, has resulted in him being a proponent of maintaining the status quo, which is juxtaposed against Aizen, who aspires to challenge the Soul Society, bring about change, and to transcend into becoming the god of the world himself. I believe that these differences have ultimately stemmed from the way that these two characters were raised. While we never get to know about the backstories of either of them, I do feel like it's a crucial aspect of the Bleach lore that fans will be continuing to speculate upon for years to come. This analysis, while it isn't complete and comprehensive, aims to shed some light on the origins of Urahara and how the Hogyoku plays such a significant role within his backstory. Now, I would like to know all of your thoughts. What do you think about Urahara's past and his backstory? Do you agree with my analysis on how Aizen juxtaposes Urahara and the differences to the approaches that they take may have stemmed from their backstory? Do you think that Kubo will ever reveal to us the history of these characters? If there's anything that I've forgotten to mention about Urahara, and if you have better theories about his past, then definitely let me know in the comments. Lastly, thank you for making it through the end of this video, and I cannot wait to see you in my next Bleach video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.